Hello, and welcome to this sixth iteration of a Skyrim dungeon I'm creating in the Skyrim Creation Kit. My name is Nate Blair, and just a recap of where we were last time. I was mostly interested in changing the hallways and the connecting corridors between each of the rooms in order to give the space a more livable feeling. It felt kind of boring to playtesters, so it was focused on making the dungeon, even the connecting passageways feel interesting and something that the player wants to explore. In this iteration, there's been a certain amount of attention paid to what are the final bits of polish before I want playtesters to be able to have the full dungeon experience minus a few small changes. So we will look at the lighting. We will look at directing the player's attention to the critical pieces of the dungeon. Um, the most important loot, like the potions and the chests, have now been placed and populated. Um, there has been a final addition of enemies and just some all around attention to detail polish. So let's get started. So the main room that we have here, the entryway, you'll notice that the torches now have a burning flame that is emitting light. So we have 5 of those torches. Just the addition of the torches has really given the room, I think, a lot more character than it had before, where there was kind of like a dull ambient light in this room, and now it is. This feels like a natural lighting that people using this room would actually have. There's also been the addition of candles, and we'll see a lot of these, especially in the corridors. I use the candles and torches to really direct the player throughout the dungeon and try and get their attention where I want it for um, things I don't want them to miss. So we'll try and quickly. I'm gonna just toggle God mode real quick just so we don't die. I have play tested the difficulty with enemies, and I've been adjusting that as well. I think that it's more infeasible on the level 1 character to fight through the dungeon, but I just don't want to take the risk for this playthrough, so we're just gonna hack our way through. Oh, come here. So one thing that is now worth noting is that the chests throughout the dungeon have the correct loot and also the correct lockpick requirements for the player. So this is just a normal like bandit chest. So we get some gold and a stamina potion. There is a hidden chest over in this rubble pile. It's been repositioned and now has a small lock on it that the player, in order to get into that chest, they have to have some lockpicking skills. So we'll enter the main corridor. Notice that the passageways are all lined with candles. So as you come around this corner, there is a candle right here to direct the attention of the player to the second passageway and also the main passageway. So this is, again, just trying to give the player an idea of what kind of options they have, just in case they might like miss this side corridor. So now they can explore this way. The chest at the end, again, has a little bit of loot in it. There's urns placed, some of which have loot and some of which do not. Continue. And just to reiterate the point, I think that the space feels a lot more alive with the addition of the lights than it did in any previous iteration. I'm very happy with how a lot of these rooms turned out, not with the addition of torches and candles. So as we enter the fake tomb or the fake burial chamber, there's kind of an ambient glow in this room. And I think it has more of an effect with the candles on the arch here. And as you enter, I'm gonna destroy these guys just to kind of re-enter, but not have to be distracted by enemies. As you first enter the room, and you are directed by the light and the carpet, it brings you to the altar first, and the glow of the candles. But then also there is a very obvious orange glow emitting from this area right here, just to really try and grab the player's attention. Like, hey, look here, there's something you should obviously see. Um, and it doesn't fit with the idea of like a secret passage as well as maybe it should, but I think it's more important that the player understand how they should progress than to maybe keep the story as like fully intact as it needs to be. So we have the chest, a little bit of loot. So the player notices the secret passage. They look around for they start looking around for the chain. They're not going to find it, but it'll give them a reason to look around the room. And then eventually they'll notice the red carpet directing them over here. So one balance change that I've made is I've taken the lever off of, or the pull chain off of the pillar, and I've actually placed it over here by the waterfall. This was my original idea, and after playtesting with the pull chain on the pillar, I liked that the player very obviously could see the pull chain when they enter the room, but I didn't like that it disincentivized the player from exploring the rest of the room. So one second, I have program not working. Okay. So yeah, the players would notice the pull chain, but then I didn't think that they felt the need to explore the rest of the room. It kind of just felt like unnecessary space. So I do want the player to have to search a little bit more than just have it easily presented to them as they first enter the room. So I've added a light dropping from the ceiling around this area over here. Plus, the waterfall, I think, is an impressive structure. So I'm hoping it will grab the player's attention to come and investigate the pull chain. And maybe just need to explore the room a little bit more, check out the altar, and then find this chest. The chest has a lock on it. So we pull the pull chain, and we will keep on going through the secret passage. More lights added to this room, again, just to give the space a feeling of living glow. One, I have not pointed out any of the drops that have been added to the dungeon, but it was suggested that for the core gameplay, consider how many potions that the player will need at least in order to safely complete a dungeon and just balance the whole experience. So there have been some potions placed throughout the dungeon. We passed the initial starting area, but if the player goes into the kitchen, they will find they'll find a bunch of food stores in there. I believe there's also a potion in that previous room as well. So the critical potions have been placed. I'll point out the next one that we passed. Enemies have been added to this hallway, so we'll fight our way through these draugrs. But I like the traps that I set in this hallway in the previous iteration, but now want to distract the player a little bit. Both so there's no dead time where they're really not doing anything, but also their mind is on enemies that they just fought. I think it makes them less likely to notice the trap. Which is, I think, an interesting way to place traps, is try and distract the player a little bit so that they have to notice when something is out of place and it's not just obviously presented. So I'll fight through these. I moved the trap that was at the beginning of this hallway to a different location. So as we enter, through a playtest, one of the pieces of feedback I received was it's okay to have a labyrinth, but it's also very difficult to tell which paths you've explored as the player. So one way to offset this is you put enemies in the labyrinth area, and so now if the player is backtracking and they come around this corner, they'll see that there's a corpse here, and they'll realize, oh, I've already been to this area. This is not the correct way to go. And same thing with the caches of urns. If any of these have have items in them, then the player will see them, and they'll see that they're looted, and they'll realize, I've already explored this area. Let's move on to the next passageway. So I've placed enemies at the end of each of these corridors, or most of the corridors, so that it's very obvious to the player, especially in kits like this that have like identical pieces. So again, here's another dead end. We have an enemy, so now they know they've explored this area. This is where I moved the trap that was beginning this area. Just trying to add some distance between traps so that the player, again, is a little bit distracted before they encounter another set of traps. Mix up the encounters that the order of encounters that they see. Here's one of the potion drops. It looks like it may not have respawned since the last time I played through the level, but this is one of the areas that the player will find a potion in. So as we enter, not a lot has changed in this room. I'll quickly fight these two guards, but then probably just move on past this room. The main addition was the torches now emit light. So again, changing the ambience of the room, and also there's been candles added to this side hallway. I tried to keep the feeling of all of the hallways similar. So these are all the same type of hallways that the player goes through. So use the same candle layout. I thought it added a kind of an intention of design when a group of people might have been trying to construct this place. So yes, adding torches to this room lowered the difficulty of the boss ever so slightly. Felt like he took too many hits, and we're just gonna move on. So this is where we would go for the treasure room. Some feedback I received is that this should be a awe-inspiring room. The player should feel victory, like the essence of victory, as they enter and see the big loot chest. So that was the feeling I was going for. So the two sconces with very bright flames in a small room, so that the glow is captured on every wall surface. I really I'm happy with how this turned out when you first enter this room, and there's just like this obvious, almost like a Zelda-like glow to this chest. So yes, and this chest does have the correct type of loot in it. It's an end boss chest. So torches were added to the secret passage. A novice player was playtesting my level, and her feedback was when she came down this passage, it wasn't obvious she needed to turn left. So again, just trying to direct the player's attention with the torches, keep a glow on the wall so that the player knows where to look. And here we are, the secret passage, and again, a torch kind of just marking that this activation chain is here. This brings us kind of back to the beginning of the level, and if the player can reach this room at the beginning, and if they do, they're rewarded with quite a few this is like a kitchen area, so there's quite a few food stores in this room, so it might be helpful for the encounters they have later in the dungeon. And here is the main banquet hall again. So, looking to the future, the things I would like to add next are mostly environmental detail. I'm fairly happy with how the layout of the dungeon is personally. I think that there are changes to be made, mostly playtest driven, so maybe playtesting and making slight changes based on that feedback. But the major addition I would have is environmental sounds, a real attention to detail on the clutter. That was one of the things I did not have a lot of time to get to. So all of these tables should have bowls and spoons and linen rags. Every room should have like spaces filled with just random books and other nonsense, and that really, I think, uh, seals the feeling that people actually use this space, because right now it's a little bit barren. Um, and I think that's the main addition I would go for is kind of the background ambient sounds and clutter. But please feel free to let me know what you think of the dungeon so far. I think it's come a long way since the beginning, but I'm always happy to hear your thoughts, and leave them in the comment section if you have anything you'd like to share with me. And thanks for watching.